Greetings, Starfighters. Welcome to Mad Science Films. I'm Jimmy P, filmmaker and sexual astronaut. First up, guys, please check out our fourth feature film for free on YouTube. Just search for Little Monster or click on the link in the show notes below. This episode is a very special episode, and I'm joined by a very special guest, a filmmaker at the cutting edge of web series and using existing platforms to his own benefit, Mr. Mark Garvey. So how long was the post-production phase?
What I was generally doing was sort of editing as I went. So there weren't many night scenes, and we'd often wrap 6-7 o'clock approximately. So I'd often go home, log the footage and review the footage, and then maybe start doing a little bit of an assembly cut. So post-production probably took a couple of months after we wrapped, but it was already in process as we were still in production. It was pretty full on. So my day job as a lecturer wasn't happening over the summer, so I had a bit of a clean slate. I wasn't doing anything other than this project. So yeah, it came together really quickly, and the editing wasn't too problematic because we were following the script documents so precisely. It was kind of, all right, we've got 6 takes of this, that's clearly the best one, and then we've got 4 takes of this, that's clearly the one I want. So it was a case of sort of dropping them together. There wasn't too much, oh, this doesn't work, or this doesn't fit, or there was certainly no need to do any reshoots or pickups or anything like that. So yeah, the editing was quite smooth compared to previous projects, really, because we knew what we had, and often there was a clear standout version. Who knows why we do so many, but yeah, often the first take is the winner. But so editing was relatively smooth, and the sound and color balancing and all of that kind of stuff, and then tweaking, and then it was the case of an additional post-production phase that I'd never encountered before, is of course having to experiment with those individual videos, uploading them, linking them, and a bunch of us, I sent the link to the first one to a bunch of people and said, can you explore and sniff around and see? And thank God I did that, because there were a lot of broken links or a lot of things where it went to completely the wrong video. And then so that was an additional stage that we wouldn't usually do. I guess it was a test screening, but it was also a test if the individual paths were correctly linked, because there's like 80 odd videos and each one has to specifically go to the next one. And yeah, that was problematic. But the other thing that came out of that was it just ended. So the credits rolled and it just came to a stop, and that was it. And it was like, oh, should we link it back to the first video? And we thought, no, actually, why don't we actually replay the first video and then present people with another choice? So you reach one of the endings, you have the end credits, and then the option is given to you. If you want to go again, here's the last, the last snippet of the very first scene, and then here's those 2 choices again. And if you can remember what choice you made the first time round, hopefully you'll choose differently and go down a very, very different path.
I've played the game through about 2.5 times. First time I died by apple poisoning, and the second time I died just by the river. But I love the fact that after the credits roll, you get taken back to that first option again. And yeah, I went straight back in and played it a second time straight after again. Right. So yeah, I think that was a great idea. I think if you ended it with just the ending, you haven't got that playability, you haven't got that hook, if you like, to hook them back in. So that absolutely works on me, at least. So well done. So you're your own DP, so I'm guessing then grading, color correction, that was done by yourself as well?
Yeah, that was all me. I mean, black and white's very different to the usual conventional grade, because really it's just getting those levels right. So it's much more efficient and straightforward than things in color. So, and also because of the abstract nature of a lot of the aesthetics, there's a lot of disguise going on there. There's a lot of, if something's hazy and something's blurred, that's welcome under usual circumstances. Smudges and smears and light leaks and whatever, you get out, go away. But in this instance, it was great. Yeah. So the weirder, the better kind of became a bit of a motto throughout the project, sort of like, Simon might do something and be like, that was weird, I like it, do it again. We embrace the strangeness here. And like I say, we last couple of things have been a bit more mainstreamy, a bit more made with more audience consideration in mind, whereas a lot of our early stuff was much more weird and strange and artistic. I guess some people might describe it as being pretentious wank. You might also describe it as being.
So obviously it's kind of designed to work on YouTube. So the flip side of that, though, is obviously then it can't be easy to screen the film, the project, outside of YouTube. Have you attempted that at all? Or
before we put it on YouTube and started testing, I had a hard drive and plugged that into a TV and watched it a lot. And I had a piece of paper, a map. So we'd watch the first one, and then I'd say to whoever was watching it to give me feedback, what do you want to do? And they'd say, oh, let's do this. And then I'd look at that. Okay, now I need to go, and found the video. It was called like A1, B7 and whatever. So, and obviously that was purely to get feedback before we put it up on YouTube, which in itself was a lengthy and complex process. I'm not sure how the interactive version could work outside of the YouTube format. I'm sure it could if somebody clever had access to the technology. But watching it on YouTube does come with its own set of problems. The end screen's not appearing for everybody. Ultimately, it was designed for YouTube and was constructed with that platform in mind. But like I say, there's this alternative linear cut that's been requested by several people, and I'm sort of chipping away at that in the background whilst I work on other projects. So that will be available, and that will be a different version of events. But I don't know that, what could possibly happen in terms of alternative ways of telling this story as well. Going back in a year's time and filming additional strands and sort of it continuing, but the coffin and the cart and the costume are all gone now. So yeah, let's just finish this project. We've done another project since. We got another project coming up. It's really hard because you want to move forward, but also sometimes you feel, oh, there's unfinished business back there.
So with the linear cut, are you tempted at all to do festivals, or is festivals just not part of your interest, not something that you're focused on?
I mean, festivals probably wouldn't allow it because it's already been seen by a bunch of people and is available to watch. I think a lot of festivals would say as a disclaimer, as an entry requirement, that it has to be exclusive to this, or it can't have been viewed elsewhere. So I don't think that's an option. But I mean, video on demand, I think just as a standard thing. I have no idea how long it's going to be either. I don't know if it's going to be a tight 90-minute, as you'd expect from a little indie horror, but I don't know, because of the amount of footage and all the different scenes, I'm not quite sure what we're going to see and how many we'll see. And if, because you've got this version and then you've got this version, and I don't just want to pick one. I want to kind of take bits of both, and I'm exploring different takes that might work better for this version as well. So it's quite unclear, although the project's shot and the project was essentially finished, months and months ago. I actually don't know what this version is going to be exactly.
You don't really seem interested in going the traditional route of distribution. I mean, very much it's like an online presence that you have, and your projects seem to fit that online world. Fan fiction, which obviously is a license rights issue. This project, which only can exist on something which has branching media options. And I don't think, obviously, that would probably scare off any sort of traditional distribution companies anyway. Is that part of the plan? Are you very much interested in self-distribution going forward, or is there an alternative that you'd consider?
I'd consider anything. But odd years, the films that we've worked on and the projects that we've completed, they've ultimately been first and foremost for us, and made with passion. Everyone involved has a proper adult grown-up full-time job that they do, as well as these things, pretty much. Ultimately, it's been an activity that we've done because we want to. So distribution, marketing, reaching an audience is often not towards the top of our priority list, which is probably a stupid prioritization of things. But the current project that we've finished shooting and sort of putting the finishing touches on now, is arguably much more mainstream, much more commercial, albeit in a very weird way that will make sense when you see the damn thing. But it's a documentary about spirituality and about modern art, which again, pretentious wank down the bottom there. And so I'm not sure that doesn't have a designated home, whether that would be suited to festivals or video on demand, remains to be seen. There's lots of different ways of getting the work out there, and then the easiest and most obvious is to whack it up yourself and put it on YouTube. But an argument could be made that devalues it in some way. Yes, you're giving it to the biggest audience possible, but if you ever put on a gig for free, no one shows up. If you put on a gig and charge 10 quid for tickets and play exactly the same music, people buy the ticket. So there is this weird sort of, it's not worth paying an entrance fee if there isn't an entrance fee. I'll only show up I have no sort of, it must be done this way, or I'm going to do it this way. And again, I think it's project dependent as well. Yeah. So needs must with the previous two, but the current project and the subsequent project, they don't need to be given away, or they don't need to rely on the functionality of a platform. They exist in their own right, and we have the rights to these things. So what their destiny is and where they end up is to be determined.
So, I mean, with your previous projects then, is it something where, you release it on physical media or streaming, and, which kind of platforms have you seen most success with?
So this is a bit of a strange story. The original projects, there's like 4 or 5 films before Union Jack, maybe more. So a random guy emailed me and just said, I've watched some of your films. I'd really like to do something with your films. I'd like to distribute your films. I can get your films out there. And I was like, whoa, this is great, because essentially they were sitting in a drawer over there, DVDs that I made myself and printed out and given to the people involved and whatever. And so they were kind of projects that were over and forgotten about. And I didn't know who this guy was, or he was in Australia as well. And he said, I will distribute your films for you. And I said, what? I don't have any money. I can't, give you any. Do people want these things? And he just took it off my hands. And it was like, I don't ever give him any money. It was the deal. And he gets to keep a large cut of whatever financial income he gets from doing these things. So he put all of these things onto Prime and other services, video on demand services, subscription services. And he and his company made a bunch of physical DVDs and sold 200 DVDs in the Philippines or something mental like that. And, a really, really bizarre. But I'll be brutally honest with you, it's something that is just out of my hands. I signed something many years ago, and my students will go to me, "Oh, I saw one of your films on some weird thing." What? I have no idea. And like a year ago, a bunch of them just appeared on YouTube on random like horror channel or adventure, whatever. So I don't know, and I'm so focused on doing the work that I haven't contacted the guy and said, so should we talk about what's going on? And it's been a long time since I've actually heard anything from any of those guys. But yeah, like I don't think it's a financial priority. So when he made this offer, I was very happy to take it, because I thought, well, if a bunch of people get to see the work, then that is the reward itself. That makes it all the more worthwhile for me, because these films were complete and they hadn't found an audience in the conventional sense. So if a bunch of people see it, fantastic. That's worthwhile in my book. Distribution is a dark art that I know so little about, and it's not something that I necessarily plays into the consideration of making a project. Marketing is similarly, it's a dark art. You can spend hours making a poster that you think is a wonderful representation of your film, and the artistry that's gone into it, and the Photoshop, and you put it up and like 15 likes and then it's gone, and then you put up a photo of you stroking a cat, and people have more interest in that. So So yeah, that side of things, once it's export Final Cut, what happens beyond that seems to be entirely out of my hands, and this mysterious other world of unpredictable madness. With Union Jack, the backlash that we got from some quarters was astonishing, and we didn't foresee that happening at all. And every post for a year had someone saying, that the flag is not called the Union Jack, and it's like, oh my god. So ended up having lengthy debates with flag experts, vexillologists. The marketing is just painful. Distribution and exhibition and everything that happens after we export the Final Cut. I feel like the Chuckle brothers bumbling along just in production and post-production. Being locked away in a dark room endlessly, just toiling away. All of those elements are wonderful, beautiful, transcendent times. But as soon as it's done, and usually when something is done, I'm already deep into the next thing anyway. So kind of like let that horse bolt, because I'm already over here doing something different. But yeah, what happens after is a great mystery to me. And it's really weird, sort of like you see that someone's uploaded your film to YouTube, and there's hundreds of comments there, and you're like, what the hell? It's very mysterious, very, very, very strange. And I with the last two I have had more control over, and the future ones I hope to have more control over. But that early batch, I feel like I let someone adopt my baby, and every now and then I get sent a photo and find out how they're growing up. But I feel like I've had no control or input into that.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for making 'Twas the Devil. Mind-blowing experience for me. I'll drop all sorts of links in the show notes below, because I want as many people as possible to have the same sort of experience playing the game, the film, the project, whatever we want to call it. So I think you kind of hinted earlier on, but would you consider making another branched narrative project in the future?
I mean, I'm open to absolutely anything, really. I don't like to repeat myself, so it would have to serve the story. It would have to be the right choice. I don't think I'd consciously go, right, let's go and make something interactive. But if somebody approached and with an idea or a script or whatever that lent itself and was appropriate, then certainly. Or if I was developing an idea or coming up with something, then yes, I would be happy to return to that, as long as it wasn't a carbon copy, as long as it was still doing something different and was appropriate for the story. I think certainly not as a gimmicky thing, certainly not make it interactive, but to be different or to stand out or to jump on a bandwagon or whatever. That wouldn't be the right way of telling a story. But if I felt with the 'Twas the Devil idea, the interactive format was appropriate and was right and suited it. So if the same thing applied to a different project, then yeah, I'd probably take on that horrendous head fuck of a challenge. But yeah, I'm not in any hurry to do anything like that again.